As I said, my name is Daniel. I'm a part of the team here, and we have had the privilege of having my friend Kendra. I always used to joke, you're one of my favorites, and you still are. And she's been involved here with Celebrate Recovery for about 4 years now, and been involved in leadership, and she has done step studies, led step studies, share groups, newcomers, been on stage doing announcements and reading. I think almost every part of Celebrate Recovery she has been a part of. And tonight we have the privilege and the honor of hearing her life-changed story. Let's give Kendra a big hand. I am so proud of you. Glad you're here. Can I pray for you? Okay, Lord, thank you so much for your daughter, Kendra. God, we thank you for everything that you have brought her through and everything you are calling her still forward to. And God, I just pray peace over her, I pray protection. Lord, everything that she went through in preparing her testimony, we just bring it to the foot of the cross. And we just say, thank you, Jesus, that you made all things right. In Jesus' name, bless her, give her courage and the words to say. Give us open hearts to receive tonight. Amen. Let's give her one more hand. Better?
I think that's good. Great. Wow, what a blessing to be here tonight. Feels like coming home.
Yeah.
And I'm honored to have some of my teammates here sitting at the second table. They came to Boston as well. My cousin. My name is Kendra, and I am a grateful believer in Jesus Christ who struggles with codependency, mental health issues, and childhood hurts, habits, and hang-ups. I was born at the Rimby Hospital and lived on a farm near Buck Lake, Alberta, with my mom and dad until I was about 10 years old when we moved to Red Deer. Buck Lake is about as redneck as you can get. My mom was a widow who had 3 children from her first marriage when she married my dad. My dad had been a bachelor up until that time. When I was born, about 4 years later, my dad was 50 years old and my mom was 42. Dad was just starting his family and mom had a family already, but was starting the second one. My 2 stepsisters were already married and each had a child that was nearly a year old, so I was an aunt upon arrival. A good memory I have of being a child was being out in the field with Dad and Mom. Mom would drive the tractor, Dad was behind the baler, waiting for the bales of hay to come. Dad would wait for the bales to come out of the back of the baler, and then he would stack them one by one on a platform in a triangle shape called a stoop, with 3 bales on the bottom, 2 on the top, and then 1 on the very top. And then he would throw me on top, pull the lever, and down I'd go onto the ground. And guess what? That was fun. I'd get off and run and go catch up again for the next ride. When that was, I can still smell the hay being baled and the sun shining down on my face. We usually spent Christmas with my stepsister and her family, and I have fond memories of playing with my nieces and nephews. Although I have good memories of being a child, especially living on the farm, there were many memories that were not so good. You see, my mom had severe mental health issues. I can remember her crying for days, taking butcher knives outside and hiding them in the snow, and not making sense when she talked. I can remember one day she laughed in a way that seemed evil and scary to me. And when I was about 5 or 6 years old, she spent about 6 months total in the hospital. I always knew when Mom came out of the hospital, she would be happy again, for a while anyway. Junior high was a difficult time for me. I was bullied a lot during that time. I remember once, I think it was grade 8, I had to do a presentation, and I can remember the kids laughing at my face, and I just cringed at that. Mom ended up having to have a cancer operation during that time, and her mental health issues continued. During my high school years, I worked part-time and couldn't wait to get my driver's license as soon as I turned 16, and guess what? I did. I had a couple of good friends during junior and senior high school, but for the most part, I went to school, worked part-time at Wendy's, and would go up to my stepbrother's place in Edmonton to be with his family and help take care of my niece and nephew that were about 7 or 8 years younger than me and were very dear to me. As a little girl, I attended a Pentecostal church on the farm with my mom. Dad didn't go to church until we moved to Red Deer. We started attending the Alliance Church when it was down by the mustard seed. That tells you how long ago that was. I can remember going to Pioneer Girls and realizing my need for God and the price that He had paid for my sins on the cross. I asked Jesus to be my Lord and Savior that night. My relationship with God was inconsistent at best for the next few years. When I was in grade 12, I started attending a youth group at a Pentecostal church, and for the next year and a half, I grew in my faith in God and was baptized and loved being involved in the young people's group. I wanted to go to Bible college, partly because the consensus was that was where I would find a husband. I had never really had a boyfriend when I began to pray for one. I was introduced to a young man that was coming to church at the time, and one night we started talking. That evening, I went out with him and his friends for coffee. I had to drive someone else home from church first, so I met them afterwards. When I drove up to the restaurant, I had been praying, and I felt that the Lord had told me this was the man I was to marry. He phoned the next morning or evening and asked me out for a date. We got together as we talked. He said that I might think he was crazy, but that he felt the Lord was telling him we were to get married as well. I told him what I thought too. He had all sorts of ideas and dreams of the way our life should be and how we can serve the Lord. He was my knight in shining armor. 6 months later, October 6, 1984, I was married to this man. We both had a desire to serve the Lord, but we both had come from dysfunctional families and were really babes in our walk with the Lord. I no longer attended young people's, and gradually those friendships disappeared. We attended a couple different churches, including Living Stones when the church was on 32nd Street, but gradually stopped going because of our circumstances. During the next 14 years, we had 3 beautiful children, sporadic employment from my husband because of physical and mental health issues that I was unaware of until stressful situations or events started to arise that caused us to have to move about 14 times during that time. And we became quite isolated and financially unstable. In 1998, we finally were able to purchase a house with a small inheritance that my dad had left me when he had passed away the year before. I was so excited to finally have a home of our own. It was an older home and needed a lot of work, but we were approved for the mortgage and had dreams of fixing it up. Well, guess what? We started to rip up the flooring, tear down the walls, the furnace quit working, no extra money to fix it, and the company I worked for went bankrupt, and I was out of a job for quite a while. People from the church I was attending connected with at the time tried to help with renovations, but my husband wouldn't let them finish. The house was totally gutted. The 4 of us were sleeping in one bedroom on the floor, heated by a kerosene heater. The house was full of wood, and we had no running water or heat or any working appliances in the middle of the winter, and had to go to the laundromat to do our laundry in an old, unreliable truck. It was not a safe place to live. It came to the point that my supervisor from my job that I now have said that I either had to leave with the children or she would need to make a call to Children's Services for the safety of the children. I had been in survival mode for so long and in denial, not only to our situation, but to a lot of things. But I did make a choice to leave that day. That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I left everything behind. It was amazing after I left, the people surrounded me with love and support. The kids and me were able to stay with a retired pastor and his wife for 3 months, who just happened to be the custodian at the seniors lodge where I was working. God had that in the plant before we moved into our own place. By the time we moved into our own place, we had all the items we needed to furnish our home. It was December 6, 2000 when we left. The pastor and his wife from the church we were attending became like parents to me, as my mom was now in the nursing home. I am so thankful that God provided His love and protection through these people. He knew what I needed at the time. About 4 years after I left my husband, after he hardly talked to me since we left, told me that he was gay. I was devastated, because until that point in time, I had thought the only reason he didn't speak to me was because of me leaving. From that point on, I started the process of allowing God to really work on me and start healing. That journey continues today. I've had to admit the anger that I've had towards both my mom, my husband, and God. I felt rejected, was ashamed that my marriage had failed, and that my children were not serving the Lord. There has been a lot of hurt, shame, and confusion to deal with. If God really told me to marry this man, and what I had done wrong to destroy the marriage. I started going to Celebrate Recovery when my cousin said she was going to start coming here at Livingstone's church. I decided to check it out, wanting to continue working through the losses I had experienced and to move on with my life, serving my Lord and Savior. I have held on to Philippians 1:6, for I am confident of this very thing, that He who began a good work in me will perfect it until the day of Jesus Christ. Realizing feelings come and go, and I can't always count that they're right. Working the program has helped me give me structure, accountability to challenge my emotions and feelings in a safe place, to seek out what I really believed about God and what is true. The grace lesson really spoke to me and helped me realize I don't have to carry that shame and guilt anymore. Christ paid for that on the cross. As a child, I was shy and quiet, if you can believe it. I became self-conscious, would not push myself past that fear. As a result, I've isolated myself, and that has caused me not to be involved in any things that I could have benefited from. Some of the changes God has brought about in my life have been strength and courage to put myself out there, a willingness to share and be vulnerable. Fear is gradually dissipating, and God is replacing that with joy and contentment. The uncontrolled anger I felt has gradually left, and the shame I felt regarding my unsuccessful marriage has been healed. Being more aware of my feelings, but learning not to be controlled by them. My walk with God is deepening as I have a desire to understand the Word as a whole, and not to just pick and choose what feels good at the time. Benefits of working the program have included connecting with others, realizing I'm not alone. It isn't what I can do or must do, but I want to continue to be guided and please my Heavenly Father. It's a heart and mind adjustment. Encouragement I can give a newcomer is to make sure to give the program time, be patient with yourself, and trust the process. Celebrate Recovery is truly a safe place. Thank you.